Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kody with Up To Kode. Today I'm going to show you how to determine the size of your bases and the height of your bases when installing an IKEA kitchen. First off, what I'm going to answer you, I have my pre-built bases. I have lots of videos on the IKEA stuff already on my channel. There's tons of information. I have full series videos and also a lot of just tip videos like this one. One question I get all the time is, what are your bases built out of? And I just use basically standard grade plywood. So spruce or fir plywood, 3/4 inch thick, super solid. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why. I'm going to show you how to determine the sizes. Okay, we're going to show you a layout of the kitchen plan. Now that's just the top view, the layout, the sizes. It might be upside down in the photo because the way we're looking at it right now is different than how we drew it. But what we did is a couple weeks ago, we made and we carefully laid out the kitchen cabinets. We did this so that we knew, okay, before the power and the plumbing and everything went in, we knew where the locations were going to be. So essentially what we have is we have a 24-inch pantry here. I'll give you some tips on how to make room for that and fillers. We have a fridge, standard size for a fridge. Old school ones are 30-inch, but we're going 36. I'll get into details there. Then we have a 36-inch bank of drawers. We have a 30-inch range, but I left 30 1/4 inches for the opening, and then we overhang the countertop a little bit. I'll get into that too. We have a 15-inch cabinet, a filler space here. And then IKEA makes a nice 47-inch corner cabinet, and they have like a half moon carousel that rolls out and pulls out, super handy. Like I said, we're gonna try to make this a quick video so it doesn't take all day. There's 36-inch sink cabinet. Dishwashers are 24-inch, and then at the end we have an 18-inch cabinet over here. So as you can see, we've felt markered it. We actually, as a tip, this is what we do all the time, whether it's chalk lines or felt lines. We like to clear coat them. That way, if it gets dusty or paint on it like it is already, they don't totally disappear, right? You can actually kind of sand some of that off. The ground is a bit dusty today, but it can't be perfect all the time, can it? Our conditions. So there's a few things that happened all at once. You can determine your height now or the size. So let's figure out the size. Two major features that kind of dictate your kitchen layout is the sink cabinet is centered with the window. So that's where we're going to start our layout, was we're going to center this sink cabinet with the window, and then that's how we start, and we work left and right from there, and that's how we know and start laying out our kitchen. The other factor that dictates a kitchen layout is usually the corner cabinet. Especially for IKEA, they only have the two options for the corner cabinet size. This is the 47-inch long one, and the other's a Lazy Susan. Obviously, there's other things that dictate a kitchen layout, but those are the two most important, and that's usually where I start, is the sink cabinet with the window. So after you get the cabinet centered with the window, you mark it down close to your base, then you just move on from there. You go 18 inches to the left, 18 inches to the right, and then I start with this mark here. This is where I started this morning when I laid it out for the guys. So I made sure I'd bang on 24 inches for the dishwasher. I even went a squeak bigger, but not much. So then I write on the wall, cabinet. So this is where my sink cabinet is, and over here, this is where my 18-inch cabinet is. You have to lay out the exact locations of the cabinets, because then what I like to think about is how I'm going to finish my base. Now the dishwasher is going here, and I have this in my other videos too. I like to actually use their 1/2 inch or their 9/16 inch panels. They're 15 by 90 panels. I rip them down for my finished toe kicks, and then I can just brad nail them to my wooden bases. There's lots of reasons for that. I always keep the finished side down. That way, if there is water, at least it's finished and sealed. It won't swell up the MDF right away. I know MDF, well, that's another debate for another day. So The reason I've set this back 5/8 of an inch for my base. My cabinet will overhang the base 5/8. Then later, when I do my finished toe kicks, I'll actually butt a finished toe kick into here. It'll be almost exactly flush with the cabinet, but I've allowed an extra 1/16 to an 1/8 just in case things don't fit perfectly. At least my finished toe kick isn't proud of the cabinet, okay? You don't have to do it that way. I just like doing it that way. I always silicone the perimeter of my dishwasher and my fridge areas. That way, if there is a flood, it forces the water out right away and it doesn't just seep downstairs or into the wall. So that's a little tip that I use. Over here, and the reason this is all laid out is now I have a cabinet here, and then I'll have a finished panel that sticks out another 9/16, but I've just backed my base off just 2 inches on the end here. I didn't want to go the full 3 inches like I do on the faces. So this base is set back just so that it has a little bit of a toe kick so you don't stub your toe when you're walking outside. Here's a picture of what I drew the guys, and this is how I do it. On every job, I lay out exactly how I'm gonna build the bases, okay? So as I went through today, you know, like I said, I marked every single cabinet. Here's this cabinet, this one doesn't move. This 47 actually has some room against the wall. It doesn't matter because it's back in the corner. Same thing here, my range. I took my cabinet, I wanted 30 1/4 of space for this. So that way when my countertop goes on, I have a little bit of play. If things aren't perfectly square, I have an 1/8 of an inch that the countertop can overhang the cabinet, the stove, or whatever, just fits in perfectly 30 inches wide. Keep in mind, there's ranges and stoves out there now that are 36, so those are becoming more common. What else did I do? So basically I just laid out all my cabinet stuff first. So I laid out this cabinet, I laid out the 36. For the fridge, what I like to do, and I have videos on this as well, you need more than 36 inches, but this is how I do it. I go 36 because I know I can buy a cabinet that size for the fridge. Then I do a 5/8 filler on the left and a 5/8 filler on the right to give me 1 1/4 inches of room. And then my gable panels go down. So these are my gable panels drawn on the ground. So I go 36, I go 2 5/8 panels, that's 1 1/4, that's 37 1/4 on the inside of my gables. And then the gables are 2 5/8, so that's another 1 1/4 again, so 1 1/4 is 38 1/2. Okay, so I have this cabinet here. I went 38 1/2 so that I know this pantry cabinet is gonna go right here. Once I have all my cabinets fully placed, then I think about, okay, how am I gonna do this? I would plop this one down, but this is actually a vent stack for some laundry downstairs. So this is venting out through the roof, and that we couldn't do it any other way. The foundation wall's there and a bunch of joists are in the way. But anyway, this base, I don't need to set it back from the cabinet because it can actually, the big gable panel will run right down and I want to be able to attach it. So this base can go to here. Okay, quick little tip here. This is actually 26 inches wide and my pantry box is only 24. But I always leave room for a filler against a wall. So there's a 2-inch filler that's gonna go there eventually. Right here, that's fine. Okay, so this 36-inch cabinet, right here I have cabinet and base goes flush here. Again, gable panel's gonna come down. I can have my base and my cabinet flush with each other, okay? Then over here where the stove's gonna go, I want my finished toe kick. I don't want it to be exposed plywood. So there, I back my base up 5/8 of an inch. Later when I put I rip those panels down and put them on, my finished toe kick will be darn near flush with the cabinet. If you want to get really fancy, you probably won't do it on this one, I'm not sure. You can buy a white panel instead of a black. Actually, no, these cabinets are dark, so I won't have the light. But I don't know. I just like it finished rather than plywood. We're going dark boxes, so my toe kick will be black. It'll be pretty darn close. No one will notice. But I just like it finished behind the stove, right? I don't like it to be like, oh, I'll pull it out, go to clean it. It's like plywood exposed. So that's why I backed that off there. And then over here, if you look in the picture that I drew for the guys, I'm gonna build this base this way as one. Then I'm gonna build, and I'm gonna butt this base into it. So it'll essentially be, now you gotta be careful of your corners being at a square. I just went 21 inches. I'll get into that as the actual depth of your base is. And then from there over to the edge is how I determine that dimension. I actually laid it out from the back wall because I have over here my base mark. So some of that's just simple math. Once you know the depth of your base, you can determine all of that. So just refer to the photos. I like to draw it out. I like to have the sizes of each base. That way I know what they look like. The next thing is to determine the height of your bases. Now you can go totally off of theory, but that isn't gonna work in these situations, especially this is a house from the 50s and it's being renoed. The floors are actually pretty darn close to level, but if you have extreme cases, this step's super important so you don't build your bases too tall, go to shim them in, and then your cabinets are way too high. Essentially, what you wanna do is you wanna find the highest point in the floor. So if the floor is sitting like this, your base is gonna sit on the high spot and you're gonna level over. So what we're gonna determine is the highest spot and how much it's out of level by, okay? We know for a fact from earlier today, this is our high point. But regardless of that, I'm not gonna get into all the crazy details because I've already given you the gist of what we're doing. This is really level across here. We have a little hump here. And earlier when we were doing it, this was almost bang on level too, which is amazing. So the foundation is really good. But what's the kicker is we had to go around, and this usually takes about a half an hour to figure out, is now I got the 2 foot level. Usually I got a helper. See, this is at a level about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's out of level. This is out of level. I just measure each location. I know this corner is the worst. So you basically are just trying to gauge how out of level everything is. So this one, I just wedge my fingers in there. That's 5/16 out of level. Okay. So if the back is perfect, both corners are perfect, but the floor is dished in, we still have to do some addition and subtraction. I'll show you a couple more things here. It gets a little confusing. That's why you always see me drawing sketches and little detailed drawings. Right here is really bad. This is kind of where we would determine how much to take off. Camera boy's in the way, otherwise I can measure it better, but that's okay. We're 3/8. See, I know we're 3/8 because I did it earlier today. So this is our sketch that I did. Sometimes I even confuse myself with it. And this is determining the height is tricky because you have flooring, we have hardwood going in later that adds 3/4 of an inch to the equation. So we talk about what we know. We know that the boxes are 30 inches high. We know our countertop here, in this case, will be 1 1/4 inch. So over here, I've done it as 31 1/4. My goal is 36 inches total height from finished floor to countertop. That would make this a 4 3/4 base height. But I have to add 3/4 because I'm putting my bases down before my 3/4 inch hardwood. So that actually makes the base 5 1/2. So I want to clarify why we took the 3/8 off. So we actually ripped all our bases to 5 1/8. And what I did is I told my guys, I said, okay, mark from the highest point, that hump back over there, make a level line, so measure up from the highest point, 5 1/8, and level all the way around. That's just kind of a guide so that we know, okay, the floor or our bases should be close to this, but when you're leveling your bases, go bang on by what the actual base is telling you. Long story short, we have 5 1/8 at the back, but because the floor is actually going downhill, we're gonna be 5 1/2 at the front. Well, it's 5 3/8 according to the tape, but I allowed an extra 1/8 because I know for a fact that these floors aren't gonna be bang level. We need a little extra 1/8 inch of room, so if we're a squeak higher than that pencil line, that's okay. It's just there as a guide. I guess I should talk about how I determined the depth of the base. So the cabinets are 24 inches deep. I don't know if there is a hard, fast rule, and I honestly think I am going to contradict my one other video that I did. I think I was within a 1/4 inch of the last one. But how we do it, I just set these back 3 inches. So I made my bases 21 inches deep. I just like a nice even number, basically, is what I did. But at the end of it all, you want to go finish to finish. So I'm going to have a 1/2 inch finished toe kick, but I'm also going to have a 3/4 inch finished door. So from cabinet to wooden base is 3 inches, but actually finish to finish will be 3 1/4 inches. So I don't know if there's a hard, fast rule of like it has to be this. Like I've seen cabinets from 2 1/2 to 3 1/2 inches in this range. So that's how I determined. I just kept it simple. I kept it 21 inches deep. That's a factor. We just plop these down for you guys. They're not leveled or shimmed or anything, but just to show you how they should line up. It lines up perfect with that mark. It lines up perfect with the other mark. We built our corner, like the corner of the house is slightly at a square, so we can tweak those, but this is how we did those. It's on permanent record. If you look, the photo was 62 5/16, not 65. So this is longer than the mark, because here's the mark over here, so he's gonna have to cut that down. Wasn't me, man, I swear. Anyway, one tip that I want to talk about, we block these heat registers off, but I like to kind of, obviously we're going to take that off before we set our cabinets. We need to cut a hole into here, but usually I'll box these in nice and small rather than having like a gaping hole underneath here, because I want to force the air out of the front of the toe kicks. If this is wide open, all these holes for your plumbing lines and your drain and stuff, it would just seep air through, and if you have garbage under your sink, it gets hot and stinky. So block these off and force the air out of the front. So anyway, you can see how they all fit. We got to get them all leveled in, make sure that they're level all the way through. Then after that, when you go to set your actual cabinet boxes, it's super easy. Before I let you go, now that the cabinets are set, I just want to show and prove to you that a few things worked and maybe help you visualize a couple other things. You can see the left of the fridge there. You can see that the box is flush with the base like we planned it. Same to the right side of the fridge. That gable can come down and the cabinet and the base are flush there. The stove, we back set those bases from the cabinets like we already talked about. Over here, I wanted to show you just the piece that I mean. Like, it's not cut to height, I just had a chunk laying around. It'll end up just something like that. It's a little bit shy of the box, which is what we want. We don't want it proud. And then we'll do the finished side down. It'll seal to the floor. We'll put hardwood in here first, and then you can seal the perimeter like we talked about as well. So that just, it helps make it a nicer finish on the inside. And then I want to show you how our math worked out for the height here. Now remember, we still have hardwood going in. We're 35.5 to the top of the box, but we're gonna lose 3/4 of an inch to hardwood. So that makes it 34 3/4. And then with the 1 1/4 inch countertop, we're back to 36. So it worked out really, really well. And because we took the time, we put some forethought into this and some planning. We set our bases once, we didn't have to readjust. And then literally just putting the cabinet boxes in was just bang, bang, boom. Everything's good to go. We're gonna wait for the hardwood to go in. Once that's in, we'll finish the gable panels and our fillers. Then once all the fillers are done, I'll start putting all the drawers and the drawer fronts in. But I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna start doing the crazy finishes until the floor is all done. So until then, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, and I hope it helps you out.